Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel. Once again, I'm your host, Casey Hendrickson. We have been talking about big tech and censorship for a long time. Over the past couple of weeks, we've noticed an old familiar foe is starting to make the rounds again, and that is Microsoft. And Microsoft has once again continued to push the envelope of new technology that is designed to censor you online. And one of those things, of course, is making sure that your kid is as a QR code that's generated for them every single day before they go to school, or else the school buildings won't open up. But then there was another story out there about this computer fingerprint. And joining us now to talk about that is Allum Bokhari. He's the senior technology correspondent over at Breitbart News. He's also the author of the book, Deleted: Big Tech's Battle to Erase the Trump Movement and Steal the Election. Allum Bokhari, welcome to the program.
Hi, Casey. Great to be on.
I appreciate the time today. So we covered this just a little bit when your article came out. I think it was last week. But why don't you tell us what Microsoft is doing with their big tech allies and why people need to be concerned about this, especially with online privacy and censorship going forward?
So Microsoft has teamed up with Adobe, Intel, and a number of other companies, as well as mainstream media companies, to create what they call the Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity. And the goal of this coalition is to make sure that every piece of digital content that's created on a computer can be traced back to an author. And they justify this to its creator. And they justify this by saying this will help them distinguish between real information and misinformation from, real videos and, deepfakes. So they're using this concern around disinformation and deepfakes, and there's a real concern around deepfakes, to create technology that could, if it were made mandatory across digital devices, completely eliminate privacy and anonymity. And crucially, Microsoft has not told me if this technology is going to be opt-in or opt-out, if you can turn it off. But essentially it means, when you consider the companies involved in this, that, if you create a document, if you create an image using Microsoft tools or Adobe tools, that there'd be some sort of signal attached to it allowing the author, the provenance, to be identified.
Now, I'm sure that there's some people in the audience, Allum, who are probably like, this sounds like this is Minority Report, this is, way out there, outlandish conspiracy theories, but this technology already exists. It's in every single inkjet printer that we have. So this is how they trace, fake currencies and things of that nature. So this isn't really a far-fetched idea at all. It's just a new application for the old technology, maybe done on a software basis as opposed to a hardware basis. Absolutely, and the fact that it's being done on a software basis should concern everyone, because Microsoft runs Microsoft Office. They have Paint. They have video making tools. Adobe has Photoshop, Premiere Pro, used by most people to create videos, Acrobat, which creates PDFs. So if they're all teaming up, and then you have Intel, which obviously creates computer microchips, laptop microchips. They own 80% of those markets. And the microchip, the central processing unit, that gets to see everything that happens on a computer, whether it's online or whether it's offline. It processes all the information. So you can't really hide from your CPU if your CPU is tracking you. So when you have all these companies working together to establish provenance, you have the potential to create technology that means there'll be nowhere for people to hide, that everything can be traced back. Now, Adobe had a similar thing before they joined this coalition that they were working on, but that was opt-in. You could turn that off. And Microsoft hasn't clarified whether you can turn off the technology that they're working on. And of course, we have to wonder, too, what's going to happen with various social media posts, memes. The great meme war of 2016 obviously comes to mind, where people are being censored just for basically artistic impressions of things that were going on in the news. What's going to happen now with the censorship culture on social media as that continues to expand? It's not retracting, but it's getting worse. And now you might be able to go ahead and look at somebody's, fingerprint from their computer and say nothing that they created is going to be posted on any of our networks. We're not going to allow this person to engage in online social activity at all unless they're in some remote website that doesn't get a lot of traffic. Is that a real concern with this technology, or am I misreading that? I think that's the whole purpose of this. The whole purpose is to sort so-called disinformation, which, as we know, is just the word they use to censor conservative and the alternative media, from so-called real information. And when you've attached signals to every piece of online content identifying its author, you can then use those signals to train algorithms to suppress information that comes from sources you like and suppress information that comes from sources you dislike. So it'll create that kind of automated AI censorship much easier.
Now, I'm also concerned about some stuff that happened in the last stimulus bill before this one under President Trump. There were some things in there that I'm a 3D printer. It specifically addresses 3D printing and copyright. It was very concerning to me. And it all involves the creation of information and the origin of files. So if you recreate something that somebody may have a patent or something like that on, they can trace it right to you. Even if you're recreating it for personal use, that it somehow would get reported to some central clearinghouse somewhere. But now, if what we're worried about with this coalition and Microsoft's technology, I mean, they're going to know exactly where to go to file lawsuits and go after you if you just want to 3D print something at home.
That's true. I remember back in 2011 and 2012, there's all these issues around copyright and, old entertainment industries trying to censor the internet because they were concerned about the impact on copyright. That was a huge progressive cause. But now that this effort is being cloaked in the guise of combating harmful disinformation, you see no opposition from progressives.
Yeah, until it comes after them. Then all of a sudden, they'll change their tune, right?
Absolutely.
Now, is there any protection against this? Let's just assume that they're not going to turn it off. It's not going to be voluntary. Is there going to be any kind of protection? This is not going to be something that you're going to be able to get a VPN for to protect against. I mean, is there anything to protect the end user from this type of censorship or no?
Well, no, that's exactly right, because a VPN simply masks your IP address. If there's like offline software like Microsoft Word or Adobe tracking you, then that signal is imprinted before you even connect to the internet. So a VPN can't protect you there. It's good to see that AMD, which is Intel's main competitor in microchips, is not part of this coalition. They don't seem to be part of it. So maybe if this technology is made mandatory, people should consider getting AMD devices rather than Intel ones. There are alternatives to Microsoft Office. I like to use and to Google Documents and Adobe. I like to use a program called, an online program actually called CryptPad, which is an open source alternative to Microsoft Word and a number of other Microsoft Office applications. So there are alternatives to Microsoft products out there. And, I'd highly recommend people use them regardless of this, where this technology goes, because Microsoft isn't really a company any conservative should be supporting.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the coalition there, you'll find that most of them have some form of a competitor, and a lot of those competitors are open source, like you talked about. One final question for you before I let you go. When we talked about this, when your article came out, and we were going over it on the show previously, one of the questions that I got is, what if I have an older computer? Is this going to be something that is going to be retroactively able to be applied to my older computer, or can I keep my older computer and hopefully avoid this type of censorship going forward? Do you have any answers for us on that?
That's a good question. I think as long as you keep it disconnected from the internet, it'll be difficult for them to retroactively update anything. But obviously you'll be cut off from getting any updates, because normally what they do with these changes is they'll add them to any update to their software. So as soon as you install the update, you install all the new technology.
And again, Allum Bokhari, he's the senior technology correspondent at Breitbart News. Thank you so much for the time. Make sure you go pick up his book, Deleted: Big Tech's Battle to Erase the Trump Movement and Steal the Election. Gee, we already know how that one went out, right, Allum? So definitely pick up that book. We appreciate your time. Good talking with you today.
Thanks, Casey. Good to be on.
All right, you take care. We've got more coming up. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.